for the entire show.
Oh, no!
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
Good morning.
Thank you, folks. Thanks once again.
Okay.
Thank you once again. The show that never ends. I forgot to say, I always I have to check things to play in order, and I forgot.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
As if you haven't heard that here before. The title of this show is Are You What You Eat? How About Mind Over Matter? I put in the chat, our diets are killing us. And I'm going to enlarge this thing a little bit bigger over top of my head and over top of everything. I'm actually going to fill the screen with it for a second. All right. Now, some explanation. You know, I saw somewhere, and like I say, you know, man, you got to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt. And this great solar thing is getting in the way. All right, this is like, I'm calling it a carb diary because that's like the worst, but it could be called carb/sugar diary. This is my breakfast today. Now, this is, you know, it's kind of typical. The juice thing, that's going to go, and I think the honey's going to go. But anyway, you should probably not have more in an entire day, 135 grams of carbs. Okay? It just goes to show how insane. And this show isn't going to be all about, like I say over there. This show is not just about how our diets are killing us. All right? It's not just about that. But we're going to touch on this and show how it relates to other things in society, our lives, and taking control of our lives and all that kind of stuff. So bear with me, and besides, this is somewhat educational. This is just a scribbling I made this morning as I was putting ingredients. Now, I start the day off with about 4 prunes. All right? They're prebiotic or probiotic prunes, so they're good for your microbiome. All right? But as you can see, there's 26 grams of carbs in there and 18 grams of sugar. I mean, they're prunes after all. Okay? So it's fruit, sugar. But I've noticed the benefit to my microbiome and, you know, in general, that I'm going to continue taking those. Now, I always thought that old-fashioned oats, whole grain oats and stuff were kind of semi-healthy for you. This doesn't necessarily go against that. I guess if I only was eating the oats, which I used to, they're 27 grams of carbs. There's some 3 grams of fats in there. That's okay. And a gram of sugar. So I don't even know how the sugar gets in there. But, you know, I mean, you know, carbs convert to sugar. And, you know, there's all this fructose, glucose. You know, well, glucose. But, I mean, you know, watch out for fructose. That's corn syrup. That's all sugars, too. So I took the strongest cereal. I have like 3 cereal boxes on top of my refrigerator, and one of them is this Raisin Bran. This is Raisin Bra, but I accidentally, it was the first thing in the morning. I just did this when I got up, and so I took the one that I accidentally bought, and apparently it's like not kitty Raisin Bran, but I mean it's Raisin Bran. It's got added. Look at this, 48 grams of carbs. All right, 20 grams of sugar in there. I always put a little dash of flax meal in just to get extra fiber. But you can see that's lower in carbs, 9 grams of carbs, 13 grams of fat, but those are omega-3 fats. Those are supposedly the healthy ones, but there's still there's 0 grams of sugar in that. So flax meal is okay. Then I had bought this. I thought I was having some, I don't know, I had some pain in my bladder, and I've been trying to clean the kidneys and gallbladder out, liver and all that stuff. And, you know, a lot of old old remedy is the old cranberry juice. And it's virtually impossible to find cranberry juice on the shelf of your average supermarket. Okay? And they used to even have cranberry juice cocktail, which was bitter, but it had additives in it. But see, we live in this society now where people can't stand anything unless it's packed with sugar. So I bought this thing, it said cranberry juice, 100% juice, right, on the front cover. And I didn't have any reading glasses with me that day. I'm looking 100% juice, all no artificial flavors, right? Big letters on the front, cranberry juice. Turns out it's got everything but. It's 29 grams of carbs and 23 grams of sugar on the entire list. And I put a little bit of juice. I don't put yogurt in my food anymore. I avoid that stuff. That's filled with sugars, and it's not really what it says cranked up to be. I'm getting more probiotics from those prunes than I would from even plain yogurt. And stay away from non-fat yogurt. They put sugars in that. But this juice has got to go. I'm either going to dump it down the drain or give it to somebody. I was putting honey in. I got this raw, unfiltered honey, which is supposedly healthy for you. In many ways, many people swear by it. 18 grams of carbs, 15 grams of sugar. That takes me to 154 grams. The max you're supposed to have is 135 max of carbs. This is the carb diary. But look at those sugars, 86 grams of sugars. And I haven't even, in my coffee, I've got this 86% cacao. So there's like some sugar in that. And I added a couple not a couple, but like a little scoop of blueberries and some blackberries into my cereal, which will have shot those sugars up to 100 for sure. That's just my cereal. In other words, I'm already like probably overly maxed out. Right? You follow me on that? Is that insane or what? It's crazy. So we'll get back to that. But first of all, I want to show you what I ended up doing yesterday. Which one is this? Okay, we don't care if that's, we can leave that there for now. So yesterday I finished, I showed you what I did the day prior to this. This is the leak above my bedroom. And so underneath those cat litter boxes and those other containers, that wall is the wall, basically is the roof. On the other side of that is bare roof, basically. Most of the shingles in that area have like kind of blown off. And so what you see this work of art, is a conglomeration of various sealants, spray, it's liquid rubber in a can. Silicone over top of those are nail holes, those protrusions, which that's where a lot of leaks come in, through the old nail holes, Eventually this summer, when the weather gets nice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up there with clippers, and I'm either going to try to knock those things out, or I'm just going to clip them like down to the wood and then seal each spot with silicone. And then I'm going to paint a sealant, straight, flat, a roof sealant, one of those roof sealants that like raises itself like a quarter of an inch. And I'm going to just roof sealant that entire area. I did this further down in the roof. I showed this on a different show. I'm not going to show it right now. And that has not leaked through the worst rainstorms, winter storms that we've had. I did that like back in, I don't know, late summer, something like that. I almost feel like there's a sneeze coming on. Hopefully not. Anyway, clean handkerchief, clean clothes, showered body. Spent last 2 days after I did this work upstairs. I've been sore. My lower back was really sore. It's not sore right now, but it probably will get. So I gotta prop myself up properly here. I can prevent that. I went outside and I was doing a lot of tree trimming. In fact, after this, I will pull up a stack of tree, some limbs just to show you some of the stuff that I chopped down. It's only a real small portion of it. I have a lot of it in a garage, my garage still in bags and weird stuff. But anyway, as you can see, if you watched yesterday, underneath that floor, I did this major seal job because I was getting puddles of water underneath those containers prior to me putting these containers back. And I figured if the water's pooling under there, it seemed to be going back behind the wall and then down into my bedroom, which started originally as the drip, drip, drip water torture, because I had a container down there. It didn't bother me that much. But it is messing with the ceiling. I don't mind it this time of year because I have dry heat. And so the humidity in my bedroom gets down, below 30. So you're not going to get any mold growth or anything weird like that. Mold can't grow, at that level. So whatever is, everything's dried and baked. But I got to get this problem so it doesn't stay damp, because once we hit the season where the humidity stays high, then I could have a mold problem. And then I'd have to rip the whole ceiling open, which I'm not looking forward to, and I don't want to. Anyway, so that's it. So then I put that black tape is that like liquid rubber in a can's tape version. And man, that stuff is sticky as hell and it's hard to work with. And so I put that all around, coming down into those barrels. And then I just duct tape. I didn't have enough money to waste on buying a couple rolls of that. So the rest is duct tape, just like kind of filling some voids where I don't necessarily think I'm going to get leaks anyway. And I put some towels down just as a way of when it starts raining to see if any water's coming in on a specific spot. It'll stop it from getting into the floor, and then I could put another container or something in that area if those towels get wet. And then I sprayed a little bit more of that liquid rubber in a can over top of the edges of the tape and around the corners and some other areas and over the nails and stuff where I think it was leaking. Now, I've done this once before, and the bedroom thing had stopped. But I don't know. It's just taken up again. And the last time that cat litter box towards the wall, closest to the wall, I had to literally drain that with this, battery-powered pump I have. I had to drain that, during this ridiculous rainstorm we had about 6 times. And tonight it's supposed to rain at 9 o'clock. It always rains at night when I'm in bed and just fell asleep. Yet the forecast originally was that it wasn't going to rain until, and it's still, Tuesday it's shown as a 40% chance of thunderstorms. The high is going to be 52 degrees, the low 36. But by Thursday, when it originally was supposed to rain, it's like saying it's a 10% chance of rain. But on that day, it's like 36 degrees for the high and 19 degrees for the low. So don't get spoiled if you get a couple days in the 50s in the mid-Atlantic states. Because the following 2 days, it's going to be back to winter, inside a refrigerator or a freezer. When people tell me, hey, it's only 40 degrees out, it's 40-some degrees outside today, it's nice. I'm going like, that's the temperature inside your refrigerator. That's what they serve Heineken at. And when it gets down to like 19, anything below freezing, it's like that's the temperature in your frickin' freezer. Well, anyway, so I think you got the picture here. Pun intended. And if you look closely towards the very bottom of this picture, where you see these wooden beams and that cut-off green beam to the far left, make sure it's fully in frame. You know, that is where the wall was, because the previous owner had this whole thing closed off. So I had to go in there with the Sawzall and like open up this whole area to access that at the roof. And you see that's quite a slope of that roof, which under normal circumstances, these kind of roofs last a lot longer because it's so steep, everything just rolls right down. But anyway, let me just show you while we're here, before we move on, is the wood pile. So this is some of the wood. This is next to my garage in the back. This is what I trimmed. And like I said, look, I was talking about this stuff, and it continues on both sides. But if you look in the back on the left-hand side, you can see some thicker branches. You see those thicker branches? And I intend on cutting those to about, 5 or 6 inch, maybe about 6 inches segments. And I'll use this circular saw or something for that. The rest of that, the far right stuff, this kind of stuff is more or less kindling and stuff. But I mean, I'm going to let this dry out. And what I'm saying is, when the fit hits the shan, I'm growing trees in my backyard. I have a very small backyard, and I will show you that this is going to be, not the average person wouldn't really show you their house, especially this back part, which is really kind of, this makes the place look pretty bad. Well, it's sideways. I have to do this weird thing. Don't ask me why. There's something with this program, Preview Mac program, that you can see that witch's house to the side here. I'm glad you could see this. This shows a little bit of my neighborhood. And you can see there's a doctor's office next door to me on the right-hand side. We are live here. And I had this nice fence and stuff, and this was open on the left-hand side where I have that white corrugated thing. That was all open, and the woman used to have these Rose of Sharon bushes and stuff there. And so it was they were fairly high. It was green. So from the view you're looking at now is basically my patio where, and my garden is back here. But you can see I wasn't focused on this, so it's kind of blurred out, this area. And all this dead stuff is just stuff I hadn't cleaned up from last year's garden. You could see a couple of my raised beds there, and they're just overwhelmed. But a good day working out in the backyard, and that stuff's done. Well, anyway, I had to put this stuff up to get privacy, because this lady next door was just bothering me, leaning over the fence, and, and she's the town gossip type of thing. So I have this tree. You can see there's a tree just before the white corrugated stuff, and you notice how it's all tilted towards my side. So a lot of that wood I sawed because some of the tree had gotten really high. It's a nice tree, and the birds liked hanging in it. And she just couldn't stand that that tree was in her thing. In fact, she cut all her Rose of Sharon bushes down too. And this is the rear portion of my house. But what I want to show you is I can't get up there. See, it's a Dutch colonial, and that roof continues up even further. Okay, so imagine now putting a pyramid on top of that roof. And that's the reason why nobody could fix the roof. See, because the part you see here, and you can actually even see a bulge on the left-hand side, that's the area where we were looking at that I fixed. And out that window up there in that third floor attic is where I dump the water out. And I know this house looks pretty trashy from the back, but it is the back. And I just haven't had anybody up to get anybody up on a ladder to get rid of that putrid green. If I showed you the front of the house, I did get the front of the house all painted white. And I have like a black trim, and I have like a green door. Right now there's like a shamrock on it. But yeah, the roof continues up, and that's the part nobody can get a ladder to. And these vines draped all over my house. So let's just look at mainly my area. So you could see the tree I cut down, and there between me and that other woman's house, there's only this fairly small gap. It's a walkway. It's my walkway. It's concrete. On the other side's a doctor's office that's never there. And these little, you could see I built these little like pergola type of things because these are all grapevines that got crazy and grew up over my house. But I'm cutting them off this year so that they'll just die off. And that's all potential lumber, all right? Though I'm going to leave that sit for the time being and just, pull away at it, the stuff that's in the center by the window and things like that, to just make the house clean. So I probably paint those bottom windows this year. Like I painted the base gray, and, I've started to work my way up. But that area towards the right and stuff, if it's a bird habitat, I'm going to let them do their thing. And you can see the fence is just filled with that. But I'm going to somehow try to have the grapevines on there. Anyway, that's it. And you can see the neighborhood, and the hills in the background and stuff. You get an idea. But you can see how this woman doesn't do anything with her house and how horrible it is. And I spent a lot of time helping her out, but she just became like a psycho, so I had to just stop. I just couldn't, I don't know. I did thousands of dollars worth of work for her. I never asked her for a dime, and it was just it was ridiculous. So I have no idea why my CPU is running high today. I don't have anything else running. And it's like continuing to rise too, which is weird. Strange. Oh, maybe this. I never said okay there. Could that have been it? Sometimes the goofiest things. Let's see if that brings it down. Yeah. So what I'm getting at is, and it's been a recent ongoing theme, is that they're killing us with food. Now, one could say, well, you don't have to eat that food. But how many people do even something stupid like this, like a quick scribble in the morning, my left eye's bothering me today. The cat just keeps getting in my face at night and crawling all over me and coming right up to my mouth. I don't understand that. It's not like the cat wants to sleep by your head like a kitten or something like that. No, it's more like, and it's freaking me out, because I read somewhere that they could be like smelling, like sensing a disease or sickness or something. I'm like, ugh, please tell me no. But it's relentless. But I went to bed early last night. I mean, it woke me up a number of times in the course of the night, but I had some bizarre dreams, semi-bizarre dreams. So I know I got into REM sleep, which is the healthy state you want to be in. It's the most curative state, so they say, whoever they are, that's the deeper sleep where your body's repairing itself. And despite the fact that, I've maxed out on carbs and sugars here, I do usually go at least 12, 13, sometimes 14 hours with, fasting, because I don't eat a dinner. I don't eat, after Like sometimes I rarely eat after 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And so the next time, but I do get up real early in the morning, so I might eat at like 4. It's 4:42 right now. So, you're seeing something like 13 hours but it's usually at least 12 hours. But I've, that Sinclair guy, he's the I think he's at Harvard now. He's the one who's this life extension guy, and he does all these experiments, and he believes that people could live 30% longer. And not only that, but that 30% will be youthful. Like he claims he's like 50, guess he's in his 50s. But if you watch his podcast, he says he is, his body, because he tests himself. He's a human guinea pig. And he says he is the body of a 20-year-old. So it's like he's the case study. So he's claiming if you're 50 years old, if you follow his regimen, you could take your physical body age down to become a 20-year-old again. And likewise, if you're 70 years old, you could take your body down you could become a 50-year-old again, or 40-year-old. Sorry. So who wouldn't want to, somebody, 60-year-old, do you want to be 30 again? Well, anyway, that's Sinclair. He has a podcast. He just started it because I just watched podcast number 2 yesterday. I watched the whole thing, him and some other guy. They wrote a book, and they quote all these journals. Like I say, he's a Harvard guy, so they quote all these medical journals. And this co-author of the book plays devil's advocate all the time. So it's not like it's just them throwing this stuff at you, like a lot of other places, where these doctors just say, do this, eat that, don't eat that, or you do this. He's saying what, Sinclair is saying what he's doing. And the other guy, I can't think of his name, is basically saying, calling him out or making him expound on it or get, be specific. So, he's into fasting, the intermittent fasting type of thing. Like universally, most people will tell you these days that sugars are just bad for you. And like I say, these sugars don't include the blueberries and whatever. And that assumes I have no sugar in anything I eat today. Now, the only thing I have planned to eat at some point later today, I will have a good healthy salad. That'll be my meal. So I'm going to cut out, in fact, I could probably do this in real time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I could do this in real time. Carbs. I'm going to line. I mean, this juice, I'm cutting that out. That's done. That's crazy. And Raisin Bran, gone. I'm going to give that to somebody else. And that was like 20, right? And I guess there's no reason to put honey in my cereal. I just put a dab, but you never know, whatever. So right there, we're talking sugar-wise, 20, 40, 50, 58, taking off of that. So that cuts down to about 30 grams. I'm not going to kick the prunes, though, because that's like, and that stuff I think is somehow getting consumed in the microbiome. And as far as carbs are concerned, the Raisin Bran, let's just round these off. If this was 50 and this was 30, we're talking 80. So let's take those two off of that and add 16 to 80, which would be 96. So that's almost 100 grams of my carbs are just coming from these 3 items. I don't know if you saw that or not. Yeah, I think you did. So you see what I'm saying? It's neat how I can do that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But I just did this for the sake of it, to show you the absurdity. And again, I'm using myself as a human guinea pig. So yeah, I'm going to cut my carbs down. I'm going to try to cut my carbs way down, to like, they're saying a max of 135. I'd like to keep my carbs for the total day under 100. And I'd like to keep my sugars. Man, I'd like to keep the sugars under, like, I don't know. Let's go online, maximum daily sugar intake. Let's go check this out. Display capture. The AHA, I guess it's American Heart Association, suggests an added sugar limit of no more than 100 calories. Well, who cares about calories? Or 24 grams of sugar for most women, and 36 grams of sugar for most men. So I'm going to write this on my thing before I get rid of this. 36 G's of sugar max. Now let's see maximum carb intake. Dietary guidelines for American between 225 and 325 grams of carbs per day. So let's take the known number. 225, 2,000 calorie diet. Yeah, so they're saying 120 to 200 grams for most people is ideal when it comes to burning fat and just overall good health. So really it should be around 120. But that 135 number max is probably reality. And I might as well just look at fat for the sake of it. Let's see. So they're talking about 44 grams to 77 of fat. Get rid of this. So, say 50 grams of fat. And like I say, there are healthy fats and then there are unhealthy fats, like those omega-3s and stuff. But it's the way the body deals with that stuff. Different people, metabolisms and what you're doing. Like, it's the same with carbs and sugars and certain things, it's like protein. I'm not even getting into the protein thing because I get protein from vegetables, but I don't eat a lot of meat. But the idea is if you're working out and trying to build muscle, it's a different story than someone like me who's, I'm walking down, walking to a store, or I'm doing some of this, crazy workout stuff, in the backyard. So I'm moving around, sawing things, pruning things, carrying things back and forth, and all that stuff. If I decide to do some painting back there to spruce up that house, mowing the lawn, working my garden. So I'm not really worried about bulking up and building up muscle. I'm not going to the gym and trying to get a 6-pack ab type of thing. So that's a whole different, game, so it doesn't apply to the idea is what I'm concerned about is health. And what it seems to me is what the data are telling us, which is the proper way to say that, is that, the American diet, they're saying, that they say people consume 2,000 calories a day. I try not to consume that many calories, but obviously today is a 2,000 calorie day because I didn't put calories down, but with that much sugar and carbs, do you see what I mean? I'm almost, my insulin spike, would be outrageous. And I'm not diabetic or anything like that. But I mean, I'm saying insulin, that has nothing to do with that. Well, it has a lot to do with diabetes, but I mean, insulin is still the baddie, when it comes to things. But yeah, from that breakfast, I've got a ridiculous insulin spike, which isn't good for your cells and for your body. And again, don't take any of this stuff from me. I'm just showing you. That's why I went to the website, and I'm showing you these numbers, but I'm trying to say, you got to take them with a grain of salt, because it's from the internet. Anything on the internet, forget it. But initially I was quoting, some Harvard doctor and someone like that, which which obviously has more cred. But still, that's between you and your nutritionist and healthcare professional. If you could find one that is interested in this stuff. And in a lot of cases, in order to find a lot of the details, like what, if you're vitamin deficient in a certain area or stuff like that, you have to go through one of these labs like this Quest or these other things and stuff. And it's expensive to get specific tests. You could get your standard blood work usually covered under your insurance, like these metabolic blood panel type of things, right? To tell you the basic things, which will tell you if you have high sugar, or, LDL, HDL, cholesterol, which they say is an outdated test. They say there's about, I don't know if it's 7 or 14 or whatever it is. There's a lot more things they need to test. That's an old 60s test. But a lot of these tests that you should have, like I say, in the era of McMedicine, like as in McDonald's, you go in, you're in there, all the rooms are filled, and the doctor comes in and you get your 15 minutes of fame with the doctor. And, if you get a good one, I mean, I have a decent doctor right now, but she's like, she's still like kind of just blows off certain things. She's in there taking the basics and looking at it. She's not, this isn't like people who used to watch House on TV, where a team comes in and tries to figure a problem out. I remember once going to a doctor and I had some questions about something, and there was an intern along with another doctor, and that was around the time when House was on the air, right? And the intern was was almost asking questions like you'd see the people on House's team ask questions. And the doctor just cut the person off, without coming out and saying it, basically just cut him off a couple times and was, could well have said, hey, look, this isn't House. This is McMedicine, And so unless you have money, and this is where this show expands into a more, greater, realm of things, right? It's that you're not going to get the health care you expect. It's like I said yesterday, they'll tell you to wear a mask, to social distance, and to wash your hands. But they won't tell you to cut out sugars, and carbs, which basically are one and the same thing, and that can cause anything from cancer to, lowering your immune system. or they won't tell you what to eat or what vitamins to take, or, foods that will boost your immune system because of the pressure of, big ag and big pharma. Big pharma wants to basically, get you sick, or want you to be sick so they could prescribe some kind of, food or pill or potion or, whatever. Big ag wants to keep selling people these foods, right? That are just loaded with carbs and sugars. I mean, you would think cereal is a good choice. I didn't look at the fiber in this. By the way, on the Raisin Bran box, it says whole grain oats or whole grain bran made from whole grain oats or something weird like that. And this is the other new thing that this Dr. Guntry, I think his name is. He's saying, that whole grain oats, whole grain anything is no good for you. Grains are no good. He just uses the name grains. And I guess the idea of whole means it's worse because it's not like kind of shelled in a sense, like the casing or something on it. And man, did that come as a shock to me because, in other words, oats is not, I shouldn't even be eating oats according to them. So like for breakfast, and this idea of, having some, I was always under the impression blueberries, good for your heart, good for your body. But, I didn't look that up, and I guess I should have, and I will. Let's see. New window. How much sugar in blueberries? And I'll show you this because we'll look at a couple. I want to see how many carbs are in there too. So you can add 15 grams to that list of sugar. I didn't put a whole cup of blueberries in, but 15 grams of sugar. So how many carbs? Let's see. Carbs in blueberries. 11 grams of total carbs. 9 grams of net carbs per half cup. How about blackberries? 14 grams. So how much sugar? How much sugar in blackberries? 7 grams. It's kind of weird. It's kind of counterintuitive the way that works. But nonetheless, it's still get these weird things in your. I just report them. So yeah, that definitely threw me over 100 in sugar, and my carbs probably were up to 175. But according to the American diet, right, in a 2,000 calorie diet, you could have like 220 over 200 carbs. So, but only 36 grams of sugar maximum. And I already had about 100. So I'm like almost 3 times the amount. And fats, you can have 50. So far as fats are concerned, adding the blueberries, well, I didn't ask for fats on those, but I'm okay on the fat department. But like I say, a lot more and more people are saying fats just aren't a problem, because the body deals with fat, and a lot of vitamins are fat soluble, and they're good healthy fats. Like for example, the highest fat on that list is 13 grams of flax meal, which is like omega-6 fats, right? And the only other ones are oats, which is still up for question. hopefully you're following along with me, and I hope this isn't too boring, you know.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And, you know, I do feel a little run down right now because, you know, I had that insulin spike from all those sugars and that carbs and sugars, and now it's like I'm almost crashing. It's 5:02 a.m. I probably ate that meal around an hour ago, you see? But I don't know what else to do for breakfast, especially getting up to do this show. It's like, you know, like fry an egg, you know, and, you know, see, the idea is to get up early in the morning, make yourself something quick and cold that's just in a bowl, you know, a cup of coffee. You know, when I'm done the show, go upstairs, I'll watch the playback of the show, relax. It gets to be daylight. I'll feed the birds, you know, and figure out what I'm going to do that day. Maybe go for a walk down the street, you know, or do some kind of thing. You know, and I'm not going to eat one of these fake energy bars. Well, first, my teeth. I've had, you know, my teeth, at least most of my front teeth look good and decent. But it's like I'm not going to be gnawing on that stuff and pull out the few remaining fillings that the psycho dentist put in my mouth as a child, because I'm already, just from having that sugar, all those sugars this morning over here, I'm feeling something. I have a potential problem area that I'm like trying to treat with xylitol toothpaste and stuff like that. Which again is just one of those more or less a homeopathic type of deal. But the other part of this show that I had in the title of it was, how about mind over matter? Right? And I bought that new book by Dr. Beth McDougall. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. There's the garbage man. I hope my garbage bags, I have put two garbage bags out. After cleaning up, I had to clean up after I did that work upstairs yesterday. But, oh, and I don't know if you noticed the little joke. They just passed me by. So it's you see on the bottom of the screen, it says made with Claris homepage. That's just a little old fashioned, that's a inside joke for some old Mac people. Made with Claris homepage. I still have Claris homepage that works on my other computer. I use it occasionally, but not as much as I'd like to. I don't like to sit at this chair. I mean, I sit at this chair for 2 hours, and that's about as sedentary as I like to be during the day. Because these are all these other factors in life, you know, and longevity. Exercise is a part of the deal too. And that's the same with even these sugars and carbs, you know, and more so the carbs. Sugars are just downright bad for you. So as you could see, I've already like totally, you know, blew my stack on sugar for today. Man, and that gets me really angry. They putting 20 grams of sugar in that Raisin Bran. Man, 48 grams of carbs. In other words, you know, we wonder why our age, you know, our mortality rate has dropped. And on the front of these boxes, see, that's the part that bothers me. It's the same with that juice. 23 grams of sugar. There's more sugar in there than there was in the cereal. And 29 grams of carbs. You don't even think there would be carbs in juice. You know, I would normally. Like, what the? How do they even do that? But on the front of that thing, 100% juice. Right? It's crazy. So So as you can see today, I'm not talking about that, socioeconomic, geopolitical thing that's happening on the other side, of the Atlantic. Because I think I said all I could say about that. And we just have to live our lives. And like I say, worrying about the sky falling, whether it's a natural disaster or some, madmen or madmen, right? There's no use to worry about that stuff. If more people would turn off the news, I think we'd have a much better world we'd be living in. And that's like part of this whole thing, what I'm trying to talk about, is that the idea is, I started, yesterday I mentioned it on several occasions, but it's this idea that, and I talked about it on a couple other shows, of course, that from a scientific standpoint, and in multiple fields of study, it's not up for question that energy creates matter. In other words, the physical world is created by energy, right? And that's how it all, that's it as far as we know. Like I say, you don't know what you don't know, right? In some cases, everything you know is wrong. But as far as we know, scientific theory, physics, right? Astrophysics, Big Bang Theory, is that energy, created all the matter that now exists in the universe. And we are, stardust, like that Joni Mitchell line from Joni Mitchell's song. So in effect, we're, the reason that we perceive ourselves as being solid, and it is a perception, for all we know, because technically there's so much space. When you get down to the subatomic level, there's so much space between, the atoms and the quarks and the various, particles like they study at the Hadron Collider. That technically we're not solid, but, for the sake of, perception, our perception in the world, the so-called real world as we know it, energy creates matter, and we are matter, and we appear to be solid objects. Though we're very complicated machines comprised of like trillions of cells, and we're literally constantly like changing and rebuilding ourselves and all of that stuff. And it's not just that thing that so many years you're actually a new person, but you're the same person. But that almost like within, so many seconds or a ridiculous amount of short period of time, you're changing as well, So the question remains is, okay, if energy creates matter, we are matter, okay, then, and we're changing, right? And so this idea is, why wouldn't it be possible? Why does somebody, if a person who's, say, 55 years old is, about their body's about to go through a complete change, right? I forget what it is. I have to look it up because it's like too weird. I'll take you along for the ride. If you haven't figured out by now, this is definitely a flow of consciousness show. But with a direction. All right. How many times, let's see, does the human body and I didn't look up that previous thing, renew itself? Let's see if anybody has anything written on this. Okay, here we go. What Friesen found is that the body cell largely replace themselves every 7 to 10 years. That's what I was looking for. In other words, old cells mostly die and are replaced by new ones during this time span. The cell renewal process happens more quickly in certain parts of the body, but head to toe rejuvenation can take up to a decade or so. Does your body really replace itself every 7 years? All right, here's someone asking a question. That's where they got the quote. That explains why our skin flakes off, our nails grow, our hair falls out, but we are constantly being filled with brand spanking new cells. Why is it the body grows old? Shouldn't this influx new cells be like a shot of Botox? When it comes to aging, it appears the secret lies not in our cells, but more specifically in our cellular DNA. All right. And that's the point of, that I wanted to talk about. So, and I didn't read this book. It's called The Pristine Blueprint. That's this book by this Dr. McDougall. I haven't read it yet, and I don't know if she gets into that aspect of this or not. I can't imagine her not. But even if she doesn't, let's get into it. So, what they're saying there is, okay, so every 7 to 10 years you renew yourself. So why doesn't a 55-year-old, like this Dr. Sinclair from Harvard, who's into this age reversal process, and has all sorts of things he's doing, right? It's not just one regimen that he's proposing. Most of their experiments have been on animals, lab animals, but he's experimenting on himself, and there have been some limited human trials. With success, I might add. Okay, and they also have studied, like I have spoke on other previous things before I even heard of him, where I talked about these studies of centenarians from around the world and, other people who have, where longevity is a factor. And it's not just longevity like in America where we warehouse old people in nursing homes and they're basically laying in a bed. It's that they're 98 years old and they're out walking to the grocery store, or I should say the fish, like in someplace Okinawa or someplace, I don't know where it is, but over in Japan, they're walking, to the markets and doing work and cooking for themselves and stuff like that. They're active in their 90s, doing things, living alone, right? So why is it so that, what they're trying to tell us, through this study, not so much a study, but it was a study that we just looked at on the internet, is that the reason you don't become, young again, even though your cells, the old cells die off and you renew and you have new cells every 7 to 10 years, is because your DNA is encoding you to duplicate itself, replicate itself. So you're a replica of what you are. So say you are 50, let's just round it off to 50 years old. So say you're 50 years old, okay? That means that perhaps 5 times you're the 5th clone of yourself, technically. In every way, shape, or form. Think of that show Westworld where they made those like robots that suddenly became like sentient and all that stuff. I don't know if they're going to have another season of that or not. I think they are. I'll probably subscribe for the month when they do that. But I'm sure they're going to be very, like the way they do it now is they just roll them out 1 episode a week and they'll start in the middle of a month. So you'll have to have at least 2 to 2.5 month subscription, 2 to 3 month subscription to watch the whole series. But the 65% cacao is better than that 100%. So what I'm thinking of doing, and it might be messy, is I have that 100 and the 65, and they're both in the same container. I have to keep things in this house closed. Everything's in sealed containers because I have a garden out back, and you can see that yard. It's just wild. And imagine when all those vines are grown with like leaves and stuff. So I have to seal up every nook and cranny to just keep insects out. And then you grow indoors. Sometimes you get these gnats and stuff around your flowers and stuff like that. So it's like, anyway, just explaining that. It's a little bit, it's one of the unfortunate things about being like kind of a backyard farmer, you know, because I'm more than a gardener. It's like kind of a backyard farmer. I have some fruit trees and, you know, a lot of different odd crops, grapevines and all this stuff. Be that as it may, I was thinking, what I was trying to say is I was thinking of grinding up that chocolate, mixing the 65 with the 80 or the 65 with the 100 to come up with an 80. And maybe I'd put a little bit of the pure vanilla extract in with it, which I don't think has any calories or fats or sugars or anything in it, and try to create that into some kind of mix that hopefully would be dry enough to just put like a little tip of a teaspoon or something in the top off my coffee, not in the mug, but when I'm brewing it. Something to think about. But it could end up being a real mess. Like it could want to just stick to the sides of the magic bullet thing they call it, you know, my grinder. Yeah, so you are a clone of yourself. And so then what comes in, and so the other thing is, you know, are you what you eat? That was part of the title of the show. You know, as people say, you are what you eat. And it's clear, you know, if I ate this, if, you know, like I say, this was semi-intentional today. I maxed it. I knew the Raisin Bran was high. I didn't realize it was that high. Because I already mentioned to a friend of mine on the phone, next time she comes down, I'm going to give her that box of cereal. And I'll hand her that juice too. You know. Because I can't finish that juice. You know, that's just too much. Those two items alone are just out of control. And I just wish I knew a nutritionist. See, one of the problems with living on the outskirts of town, living in a cheap house, a place where I've got to fix the roof and stuff like that, is, you know, I mean, what do I still have up here? I have the house. Yeah. It's not a bad picture of the house. I was out there yesterday. It was cold. But like I say, you're looking at like 1/3 of my yard. My yard goes way, way back, and way at the end of it, like from what you're looking at from this perspective, I have a detached garage, which is like a workshop, you know, area. And there's a patio and a little mini greenhouse. You've seen that from a different angle. Well, actually, I could show you that angle. Let's get rid of this. Let's do the whole 9 yards. I thought I got rid of that. Where the heck's that popping up from? Oh. This is the view from the other side. So on the right-hand side, that tree, that full tree, the tallest tree, that's the one that's chopped down, really, you know, here. Not there. Right there. You see that tree that's cut against the fence, so it's like all on my side, not on the other person's side? That's that tree on the right-hand side. See how it was going over the fence into her yard? She just couldn't stand that, as if it was causing some kind of damage. The height of the part that was over her fence was like, she's about 5 foot tall. The height of that part was probably 16 to 18 feet tall, you know, and it wasn't like it was shedding leaves or anything. This person has an aversion to greenery. But this is the part of the yard you can't see. So, you know, in one view, you're looking at my house. That window above that conglomeration of vines that were grapevines that took over the house, I have to clean and fix up that whole area, but that's doable. See, I could reach all that. I mean, with a ladder and stuff safely. And you can see how I started to trim, the black trim around the window and the rail and the bottom. So I'm going to probably trim that window black and, clean up all that mess around there. And that little roof area up there doesn't seem to leak. That's my little patio. There's a little mini porch because there's stairs going up to that. And my kitchen's beyond that. But that little window up top, that's my bedroom window. So it's not that bad looking. And when the trees and all the flowers are blooming and I'm growing crops and everything, it's a nice space. But like I say, it looks like this on the other, so from the other direction, this is what you see. So it's kind of nice. And this is more color, whereas, this is the fall, the spring cold. And then, it's not a bad neighborhood. I mean, I'm telling you. And like I say, being next, I have a wacky neighbor. I just like to pretend that she's not there. But, next to me is a doctor's office and stuff. And, it's cool. So the thing that we have to look at, and I guess what this Dr. Sinclair guy's looking into, and he and other people, and even people who are into the more spiritual aspect of it, see, there's a metaphysical element to this no matter which way you look at it. Or maybe not no matter which way. There's two ways. So I guess Sinclair is approaching this from the scientific aspect, the chemistry. Right? Better living through chemistry idea. And so he's saying, eat this, don't eat that, fast for 16 hours, a day, eat one big meal, maybe start out with two, but then eventually one big meal. He just eats a dinner. And then avoid sugars. These things are bad, sugars and carbs, because that spikes insulin, and insulin has all these, he went through all the things, right? And I've seen other people go through that too. They're just not good for you, for your health. But, it's it's not like the end of the world. Like today, this unfortunate experiment that I took, it's almost set me back. It's like I wasn't planning on walking anywhere today. I was just going to do some stuff, but it's like I'm going to have to take a walk, man. With all those carbs and sugars, I got to burn off some of that energy. Otherwise it's just going to wreak havoc in my cellular structure, right? So, yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, the other thing is a metaphysical aspect. But when I say metaphysical, but it's not really, that's scientific too, because that's kind of like Einstein and the Big Bang Theory type of thing, astrophysics, and quantum physics. It's this idea that energy produces matter and almost intention or viewing. Now, I've heard some arguments against this double slit theory, if you know what that is. That's this idea of when they when something is viewed, it knows it's being viewed. So it changes from whether or not it's it's a wave, it's a particle, or it's a wave. But I have heard someone make an argument against that whole thing, but that experiment's been produced by multiple people, and it seems to be, as far as I know, at least at this point, it's still commonly accepted, in quantum physics as a reality. In other words, it's more of that perception is reality type of thing. But it's almost that the perceived, it's like the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It comes under that concept of that, reality is in, the eye of the beholder. which perception is reality, I guess you could say. So, in quantum physics, perhaps it's not, then it wouldn't be meta, right? Obviously in chemistry and in Sinclair's work, it would be hard science, biochemical type of thing. And what I'm saying is that from a metaphysical standpoint, spiritually or whatever, it's more of this idea. It's still the same thing. It's energy creates matter. And I mentioned even in a religious standpoint, people could say something like the Word was made flesh, right? And what is the Word? Well, the Word is in effect energy, right? Creating matter, right? Matter from God, right? God's Word. But I mean, would be energy, right? So it doesn't matter religious, New Age, spiritual, astrophysicist, quantum physics, chemistry, anatomy, biology, that kind of thing, medicine, nutrition, all these various ways of approaching this issue of ourselves, our lives, longevity, existence, and everything. That's why I said this show is not just about our diets, how our diets are killing us. It's about us as beings, right? So I could, for the sake of it, take that off of there. And we'll go back to maybe a little bit of great solar stuff. One of our sponsors, but the idea of the sun in the sky and dealing with this material world, physical world that we're in right now. And that's the thing, we have to accept. This gives you a better chance to see what I'm doing now. And I'm just wearing my winter red shirt today. Because it's, like I said, is it supposed to be cold today still? Yeah, if I take a walk down there, at like 7 o'clock, it's going to be 36 freaking degrees. But it's going to get up to 52 today. I hate that. It's like I'm out there bundled up, going for a walk, walking a mile in this wind blowing with this like wool hat and a hoodie on and stuff, And then, somebody will call me in the afternoon and they'll be out and the sun will be shining and they'll be like, oh, it's a nice day and stuff. It's like, I will, not when I was out. We live in this material world and, it's, unless you're some kind of like perfect being, you fall victim to the trappings of it. And the more you want to be, want to believe that you have the ability to focus, concentrate, and alter, energy creates matter. Well, then energy should be able to alter matter, right? I mean, it would follow. I mean, you don't just create something. I mean, if the creator, right? So it would be, again, going down that whole litany of which I don't have to repeat. However you want to look at it, if energy is the creator, or if the creator is energy, or forget the word energy, just say, so if that whom that which created us, the creator, has the ability to just create matter, then it would seem that this matter can be altered. And we have the ability to alter matter ourselves, through chemistry, which diet falls under, but there's also, creating chemical compounds in the lab, lifestyle, and that sort of thing. But then when you get into the concept of those people who are into meditation and everything else, then there's this other idea. So, I'm open to everything because I believe in both. Or maybe that they're both combined and we just don't realize it. That might on the surface that might seem a little confusing and contradictory, but the idea is that it's through the intention that someone is trying to, say, take 30 years off of a life. In the case of this doctor, having a 50-year-old doctor having a 30 or 20-year-old body by utilizing these various, dietary and supplemental, the intake of supplements. And so, but then again, it still is that person's intention. So it's this energy that's just basically kind of materializing itself or actualizing itself, I guess, through this particular medium of chemistry. You see what I mean? So that there's in other words, it's almost like, I hate to use the word, like mysticism or magic or something like that. Was that the Aldous Huxley line about magic? Or no, it was Arthur C. Clarke. Any advanced technology would appear to be magic to, someone who's never seen it before, right? And that's a total butcher job of a paraphrase of a Clarke line. I'm pretty sure it was Clarke too, I hope. But you've heard that before, one way, shape, or form. So that's what I mean by magic. So, in other words, science is magic. It depends on your vantage point and your timeline. And if you believe in how you perceive time too, right? If you believe in linear time, or you believe in time like as in the now, right? Or time, beyond that. That's a whole other thing. So we're waiting for a garbage truck come to stop in front of my house to pick up my bags. Because I think the previous garbage truck was a recycled truck. That's why I have camera 2 up there, not just for the garbage truck, but for those coal trucks that zip by to power those electric cars. So you see what I mean, though, about, speaking of which. So in other words, the reason you are driven to do a thing, there's still a spark. That's that whole idea of almost of destiny, of predetermination, as opposed, determinism as opposed to the free will. Right? You may think you have free will, but, once something was set in motion, it's inevitable that it would end up a particular way. Now, some people take that as very frustrating and saying, so what you're telling me is I really don't have choice. No, you have choice. It's just that choice is predetermined. In other words, when you get out of the concept of linear time and you imagine the idea of viewing everything, in its entirety, all right, then you can see the outcomes, what they're going to be. And so whether or not these outcomes are, I know this is heavy stuff, but this is kind of neat. I like this. I mean, there's two things we need to know.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And some of you might think,
The future. He came from the future.
which quite well be possible, but I'm not going to fess up to that, yet. Anyway. Oh, no. Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, but, I'll tell you one thing.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, we're not with this discussion. So, omnipotence, right? We've heard that word. And people talk about the one, like oneness. God consciousness, all right? All knowing, right? And then with us, in many ways there's aspects that I've talked about before, there's the unknowable, right? In our minds, the unknowable. But forget about that. Let's think of, all knowing, omnipotent, right? God consciousness, the one, right? Not like in Neo in the Matrix. I mean, one as in the one, universe or multiverse or whatever the heck, existence comprises in all of this. Everything there is, everything we could conceive, right? So, in an omnipotent or from an omnipotent perspective, viewpoint, looking, we always think of looking down, right? But, maybe looking 360 degrees, that's an interesting concept. I mean, we can't conceive that. But I'm always fascinated by like birds and certain animals that have like even a cow, like that have an eye on this side and an eye on this side. Right? So that they have a better view. It's like that whole predator-prey thing. Predators tend to have their eyes in the front so they could focus on their prey. Right? But prey, tend to have their eyes, on the side so that they could see, the dangers around them, not just in front of them. And it's always fascinated me too, is the idea of it's like, we're looking and we have this kind of 3D vision, so to speak. You close one eye, you still kind of see the same way, right? But it's this idea that you see things, there's a better depth of field, with the binocular vision that we have. But, for the tiny brain of a bird or another animal that has an eye on one side and an eye on another, it's like somehow they have the ability to focus and to comprehend and process in their brains these two things and put it together without being freaked out. Because if you take a piece of cardboard or something weird like this and extend it way out so that this eye only sees one thing and this eye, only sees another, you like, and then just try walking through the room or something, you're like totally out of like, whoa, this is crazy. Now, it's not to say that our brains couldn't have developed in such a way that it was possible for us to do that. And obviously they have in these animals that have an eye on the left and an eye on the right. Okay? But so what I'm getting at when I was saying 360 vision, so imagine if it's possible for a bird or a cow or something, some kind of insect or whatever, like a fly's eye, for them to have these, different perceptions of reality, so to speak, the world, this material world that we are all occupying at this moment, then an omnipotent, it would be nothing to imagine an omnipotent person, or not even person, being whatever, to have 360 degree view. So to be able to see everything at once. And at that same time, to see every time at once. Right? So to be all-knowing, omnipotent. And of course, we can't comprehend that. Well, we can comprehend it. But the concept of it, but we can't do it. And so, in effect, everything that is seen by by the omnipotent, means everything, would be like it's all been seen before. So it's not like so it's your destiny. It's predetermined in a sense because it's happening. Not that it's happened before or it's going to happen in the future. In other words, by seeing all there is at all times, right? And who knows, there may even be another that we can't even think of, right? It's still unknowable. Then the plan is laid out. So your free will is your free will. But, to the omnipotent, it's that choice was or is known, is seen, is. It's so, and then you could get into, this gets really crazy and this is out there. But it's interesting to talk about because I'm going to bring it back down to earth in a second. So the idea is, and this corresponds with everything. Yeah, it doesn't detract from, like I say, from like quantum physics or from religion or from spiritualism or, this whole, the idea is what I'm trying to do is, it's the same with this unify thing, that movement of peace that, didn't seem to catch on as much as I thought it might have. But the idea of, we're all part of this, interchangeable, existence or whatever it is. And we seem to, if there is an energy creates matter, and we have the ability to create chemical reactions, do certain things, eat certain foods, alter our DNA, genetics, then, we're part of that chain. And whether or not it has nothing to do, then you could forget about the one and the omnipotent, though it is possible to, pray, meditate, concentrate, or just think about or focus on, like I say, wherever your vantage point is, whatever you believe in. That's the part where where people have to come together and not be so hateful and so prejudicial. Like, I don't really care, it doesn't really matter what flavor, of human you are, right? Which is a good way of putting it together, because a flavor is comprised of multiple things, right? It's not that simple. Flavors are complex. So I don't care what your flavor is, if that, and what combinations of flavors you put together in your recipe that makes up you as a being. Right? Because beings are made up of our these recipes that define us as beings, have all kinds of ingredients in them. And that's another way where all this stuff comes together as far as, diet, exercise, and spiritualism, energy, but also race, creed, color, religion, ideology. Do you see what I mean? So imagine this form, this empty shell, and you open up the skull, flip it open like in a Monty Python cartoon on a hinge, push back the brain, and, it's just an empty thing. And you pour in a little bit of a certain religion, pour in some sugar and carbs, you pour in some particular ideology, political leaning, right? Pour in a certain dye, pigmentation that's going to change the color of the skin. Pour in something that's going to, alter a thing here or there. And then you click back the thing. And you've got this, I'm a recipe, for me, for what you see and what's represented here. But basically, I'm the same shell, and I'm existing in the same plane of existence or whatever. All right? I'm just something. So it's like, it's like I'm a cookie on a cookie sheet. You decided to make oatmeal cookies, and you decided to put raisins in them instead of, chocolate chips or M&Ms, or you just made chocolate chip cookies and you put white chocolate on them instead of, Nestle's semi-sweet morsels, or you decided to put, some kind of, you made a peppermint patty cookie or something. Right? Or sugar cookie. You see what I'm saying? So, the world's full of, a bunch of different cookies, or a bunch of different recipes, a bunch of different dishes, a bunch of variations on a theme. All right? But it's all human, and it's all energy produces this matter, and this matter is comprised in such a way that, it still has that connection with energy, to matter. And then within the cellular structure, the physical structure itself, there's energy. So it goes down down to the quantum level. All right. And so these things are still happening and reacting. The unknowable is the omnipotent. Forget about that. I just mentioned that because it needs to be mentioned, and it also is a need so that people don't have this obsession with thinking, oh, well, this is, that goes against my religion, or that goes against my ideology, that goes against my belief, that goes against my cultural heritage, that goes against it. It's like, no, throw all that stuff out the window. That's why I say I'm out of politics and stuff like that. These things are petty, insignificant things. They're choices in a recipe, right? It's whether or not, you decide to use olive oil instead of canola oil or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's also what makes the bean, too, is because the ingredients that's inside of you, or your continuation of those ingredients, are going to affect, your life. And who you are and how you are. And so that's where it comes back to the concrete and the physical. So what I'm trying to say is there's two takeaways that, I'm trying to get across with this show. And like always, it always takes me, towards the end until it all comes together. And nobody, I know people just don't want to watch the show this long. And I'm sorry, but, it just, it's unscripted. Right? I'm working my way through it, and I'm taking you along with me on this flow of consciousness. So in a very concrete, matter-of-factual way, you can talk about carbs, sugar, insulin spikes, right? Fat intake, exercise. You could talk about chemistry and, people that are reducing, reversing the aging process, that sort of thing. And all those things seem to be possible and seem to be happening right now. And again, just to throw in a little caveat that, to make the point and stress it, I'm against this transhumanist idea of like where we need machines. We don't need a machine, a computer, or anything to do that. We are the ultimate machine. We're the ultimate android, and our brains are the ultimate processors. And when you see things in this light and the way I presented these things to you, you're seeing a human brain in action. All right? I mean, flawed as it is, okay? And I may have misspoke here or there, or sometimes I've, it happens, especially when it's a free flow of consciousness like this, and I'm doing it live, unedited. But the idea is it's very fascinating that I can do this. And I don't care what people say about AI, and I've studied AI. I've written a book behind me, Codex, deals with some of that, and the hard problem of consciousness. But there's these two ideas. And so I believe it's the melding of the two, the blending of the two, to use the cooking, analogy. It's the recipe that we're seeking. And the part of that is metaphysical, and part of it is not. But then again, some people consider quantum physics kind of metaphysics. I mean, some people do. Not everybody accepts a lot of that stuff. Like I say, people don't accept the double slit experiment. They say, oh, there's all kinds of reasons why that it's not what you're thinking it is. People don't accept this idea of string theory, right? They have that. I don't buy that. The multiverse, right? People, there's, but there, nonetheless, all of these things have been thrown out by various brilliant minds and have appeared in scientific papers in peer-reviewed journals and whatnot. So, it's the same with, so it's various densities of existence, but you can't argue with the idea, at least at this point, that energy creates matter, and that continues down to the subatomic level. And so, and in a sense, aren't sugars and carbs creating energy for the human body? In a sense, I mean, well, directly giving you the energy to function, to do a thing. I mean, this is a bioelectric brain. And we function basically, electrical impulses and chemical reactions. And everything around us, it's an electric universe. I mean, and look, I'm coming to you, via electricity. It doesn't matter how the electricity is produced, right? So at this particular moment in time, if it is a moment in time, if time is just not time immemorial and and there's some omnipotent thing that we're a part of, and it's a 360-degree view, and it maybe we're the eyes and ears of the universe and the one and everything, and it's all, it's unknowable, but it's, it's almost comprehensible. It's at the edge of your ability to comprehend, right? But it's there somewhere where you can almost conceive it, but you just can't. Just right at the edge of what you can conceive. So it would make sense to me that you have the power to alter your physical matter, right? And the physical world. And that the more people that focus on a specific thing, the more powerful that energy could be. And some people call that the power of prayer. Some people call that meditation. Some people view that as almost magic, right? Some people view that as just total new age, metaphysical nonsense. But it's all the same thing. See, it's just from your perspective or what, how you were raised and how you see it. And, but you're all talking the same thing. You're just saying it in a different way. And so that's why arguing among each other about specifics doesn't really matter. Because the end result is the same. And it's the same with science. So throw science into that picture and chemistry. So what I'm saying is a chemist is basically saying, well, we could take this resveratrol, right? A Pinot, was it a Pinot? Which wine was the best one with resveratrol? Let's see. I'm going to look that up real quick. I'll take you along for that ride. This show isn't going to last that much longer, but I just want to look this up. It was mentioned in a program, and I didn't catch Pinot Noir. Resveratrol. The Pinot Noir grape has been said to produce the highest amounts of antioxidant resveratrol than other red wines, which, like most other red wines besides Pinot Noir, already contain 10 times the amount of resveratrol as white wines. So the idea is, and I just got to make a note of that because I have to deal with so many different things. Pinot Noir. I hear a garbage truck. And I hope it's my garbage man. Hopefully gets my bags. I had 2 bags out. One was light, so I tried to lean the heavier one against the other one against a pole. And I was hoping they didn't go out in the street. So if the guy's stopping, there's a guy. Seems to have grabbed them. Hopefully. Well. Garbage day. This heavy-duty discussion, I'm worried about garbage trucks and talking about the coal trucks going up to the energy coal-fired energy plants that are running the electric cars. But this Pinot Noir, and resveratrol, so whether or not through chemistry you're just taking the resveratrol, which is one of these, they believe to be one of these anti-aging type of things. But I mean, don't take that from me as if go buy a bottle of wine right now and think you're going to take off a couple of years off your age. But it's a combination of things, and I advise you, I think Sinclair has a book out with this other guy. I forget the other guy's name. Look up Sinclair, Harvard, age reversal, you'll find him. And check out. He has a podcast too. Just started. Like I said, they're only second episode into it, so catch up on it. And and if that interests you, check it out. I think it's pretty interesting, the idea that, there's not a whole lot of evidence outside of animal studies, apart from his own personal studies and some anecdotal, and then some human trials. But it's only been several years of human trials, right? So you can't say someone's reversed aging 30 years. It would take a 30-year study. In a sense, almost. The question is, Will Sinclair, he does look very young for a guy in his 50s. He could pass for somebody maybe in his 20s. And they have ways now of measuring your biological age as opposed to your chronological age. You can do that now. That's another one of these things I tell you, like you can go to your doctor and they'll say, well, I can't do that test, or I could take the blood, but we have to send it to such and such a lab, and it may cost you a couple $100 to get the results for that. You see, or you might have to go to a certain place and do that. It might take time. There was one thing they were talking about that took like an hour or something to do. I don't know. That might have been it. I don't remember. You have to watch. Like I say, I'm just telling you about things. And remember, this chair is weird. So, so whatever you believe in, whether it's chemistry, trying to alter your DNA, all right? Because remember, we started out talking about that every 7 to 10 years, you're cloning yourself, which means that a 60-year-old person, a 60-year-old person has cloned themselves maybe 10 times. I don't know when to clone, when you're growing up, it may start after you reach, after you get through puberty or something, once you become you. So it may only be from, say, 20 to 60 or something like that. So it would be, 30, 40, 50, 60. So you've cloned yourself 4 times. A 70-year-old might have cloned themselves 5 times. But the problem is what they're doing is they're cloning themselves exactly as it's a clone in a pure sense of a clone. So what good is that? So the idea is to, let's take this a step further. And I don't know if Sinclair's talked about it, but so if you could be at a point where you reverse your age 30 years, right? By doing something, and you probably would have to at least do it for 10 years. I think he was on his program for about 10 years. Guy does look young. Check him out. Then if at that moment your body is renewing its cells within that 7 to 10 year process, and during that 7 to 10 year process, you're in the process of reducing your age 30 years, then it is conceivable that you will be cloned at that point so if you were 60 and you were doing this, and your really biological age was 30, it is conceivably that you would then be cloned as your cells renew, the old ones die off, the new ones are replaced, that they're replaced by the ones that are biologically only 30 years old, so that you could conceivably maintain this youth. And that's one of the things I've heard from someone else, saying that it is quite possible, and this seems far out. And like I say, this makes transhumanism and guys like Ray Kurzweil and all that research at Alphabet Go, and all that, Google Go, all that stuff. It just throws it all out the window, and it makes AI look idiotic, right? Because, especially when you get into the metaphysical aspects of energy, all matter is produced by energy. And that if you could be, from a metaphysical standpoint, that you can concentrate, focus energy to help with this. So what I'm saying is to kind of put this all together into some kind of, make sense of this whole show, is that if you are able to take this physical form, okay, this, material body, all right, bioelectric brain, this android-esque body, this biochemical reactions, electro-biochemical reactions, all right, and reverse the aging process by 30 years through diet, intermittent fasting, which means like just skip a meal basically, or skip 2 if you can, or whatever, reduce your sugars and carbs and stuff like that, eat healthy fats, right? And you can, and like I say, some people take these supplements, propose supplements for these, in replacement of the actual thing. So instead of drinking a glass of Pinot Noir or a bottle of it or whatever, they may just take a supplement of resveratrol, a high dose of it or something weird like that. I don't know. You got to check out these people. You got to do your own research on this. What I'm doing is giving you an overview of what I've seen, looking at the big picture and hearing a lot of the different voices talk about and what may or may not be possible. All of this may just be, a thought experiment, and it just may be something, just something for you to spend some time on an afternoon watching this show, thinking about this, imagining this. But it may give you ideas. It may open up an idea. But if simultaneous to that, and if the body is renewing itself, and so if you're able to reduce your biological age by, it doesn't even have to be 30 years, if it's just 20 years, if it's half that, if it's 15 years, and at that given point, you're also simultaneously renewing, cloning yourself, in effect, is with what we do ourselves, then you should be able to maintain that age indefinitely. And so like right now, apart from this gallbladder problem I have, if I can kick this thing, man, I hope I can, okay? And somehow get myself, what I ate today, wherever that, do I still have that thing? Yeah. Today is hell. Look at that Carb diary. That's insane. And like I say, take those numbers. I forgot to add the berries. So those numbers, it's probably 100 grams of sugar and probably 175 grams of carbs. That's insane. Insanity. Don't eat that. Don't do this. Don't do it. But if I'm able to get myself to a point where I'm living healthy, eating healthy, and I'm reducing my biological age, and I'm able to maintain this age. Like, look at me right now. I don't know how I look to you, but I wouldn't mind being like this for another 30, 40 years, right? If I could maintain this, this look. Little scruffy beard on the side and stuff. I clean shave that. My mustache could use a little bit just for men, right? Maybe. I don't know. But whatever. You know what I'm saying. So reducing your age, your biological age, forget your physical age. That doesn't matter. Reduce your biological age, and as your cells reproduce themselves and renew yourself, it will renew at that age, that biological age. And so as long as you semi-maintain, and remember, you don't have to be perfect. That was one of the points this doctor and some other doctors said. Look, you didn't it's not like you're back to stage one if you accidentally break down and you're at a birthday party for some, for some nephew or somebody, and you have a piece of birthday cake or some sugar or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you screw. It's not the end of the world, all right? You're not, okay, well, I guess the clock reset the timer. No, that's not it. The ideal is to basically lower your sugars as low as possible, lower your carbs as low as possible. There are a certain amount of things the human body needs, okay? You just don't want those insulin spikes, okay? Right? And things of that. But you look at the professionals and talk to nutritionists and doctors about that, the specifics of it. I'm talking about generally, I'm giving you an overview of what I've heard. And you'll see, people will talk about this stuff in different ways. But if you're able to indefinitely renew your cells, okay, because that's what your body's doing. It's taking a snapshot. That's why you age. See, in other words, like I said, it says it right. Someone asked a question right in that article we looked at before on the internet. Well, if your cells renew every 7 to 10 years, why aren't you a brand new person? Or why do you stay the same age? Well, it's because it's a snapshot of you at that particular time. That's why I'm calling it a clone. You're cloning yourself every 10 years, more or less. So what you want to be cloned when you're at a biologically lower age. So your goal right now should be to you should do everything possible if you're over the age of 50, all right? If you're around the age 50, because you don't want to be old. You want to be, 50 is not a bad age, okay? It's a decent age. So if you want to stay 45, 50, right? You want to get to that point. You want to lower your age so that you're like just under 50. In your late 40s. The 40s were some of my best years. Physically, emotionally, just what I was doing, traveling, people I met, my life experiences. So if I could get myself to a biological age just under 50, even if it's 49, I don't care. And then when I'm cloned, which I will be, the human body clones itself. It's not like some cloning process, Dolly the sheep or whatever. Then I want to get cloned at 49 again. And then in 10 years, when I get cloned again, I want my biological age. You see what I mean? I want to keep being cloned at 49 indefinitely. And I don't care if then my biological age is 80 or 90. My chronological age is 80 or 90. I'm still going to be, 49. I mean, I may creep up just in general. There may be factors that we can't deal with, but I may creep up into my 50s at that point when I'm 90. But I mean, I would rather be 90 years old than have the biological age of a 50-year-old. And what I'm saying is to add into this process is not just chemistry and biology and, the diet, okay, and exercise, which are key, all right? There's no easy way out of this. You have to work if you really want to do this, if you want to be healthy. And even then, there's still this guy. The reason I mentioned omnipotent and destiny and predetermination, it's that there's still that factor in there. We don't want to think about that. And that's the unknowable, and I prefer to, I'm not going to know it, so why talk about it? Just mentioned it. Is the metaphysical concept of focus, right? Of meditation, prayer, or just thinking about it. A lot of people go, I don't want to get into that meditation stuff. I'm not into doing this yoga stuff. And I don't want to do this Om or the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo or any of that stuff. I was never a big prayer person, or I don't want to go to this, that, the other service. I don't want to do this. And some people say, well, yeah, I like going to this, or I like doing that. I like doing that. Well, whatever. That doesn't really matter. Point of the matter is you do whatever you do. Because any of those things will work. You see? So I say that's part of the recipe. That's like, when they say, grandma's cookies somehow seem to taste better, but I used grandma's recipe exactly the way it was written down, but somehow my cookies don't taste as good as grandma's. Right? Well, that's what I'm saying. You've got to add that energy. You've got to add that thought process. You got to add that, that other aspect, the metaphysical aspect of it. Now, it may just be that she altered the recipe and put a little extra of this in or a little extra of that, but it also could be just that, who knows? It could just be tender, loving care, right? The way she dealt with it and her focus on it. Who knows? We know that stuff. You know that. Have you seen those water experiments? It's getting late. I'm going to end this show. Have you seen those, water experiments where happy water and like angry water, right? How the shapes, of it. It's like, yeah. And we are water, right? Which is a whole nother factor with this, considering we talk about, the bioelectric thing, we're basically comprised of water. And so you have to feel good. You have to find happiness. You have to be calm. You have to think about it, focus, meditate, pray, do whatever works for you. It doesn't matter. And don't get angry and hateful because somebody's meditating and you're praying and this person's just thinking and that person is a new ager. You see? That's a thing you have to get away. Negative vibes. Get rid of all that nonsense. All right? It's okay for you to be what you are and who you are and believe who you are because that's who you are. All right? And let that person be who they are. All right? And the bad people out there, don't fixate on them and focus on them or even hate them. You see? That's that whole idea. You don't have to, you love your enemies, type of thing. But the point is, love them from afar, And so be calm, be happy, try to find happiness, be happy. Like I say, forget the pursuit of happiness, be happy. All right? Think and focus on, a good life, a healthy life, being healthy. I hope you would help me and focus on my life and helping me beat some of the health problems I have, particularly this gallbladder thing and some of this stuff that's affecting me right now. All right? And I will do the same for you when I think and focus and concentrate on things like that. And that's all I'm saying. You can pray, meditate, think, concentrate, focus. It doesn't matter what you do, but do something. But at the same time, you have to also do something physically. You have to get off the chair and take that walk, even if it's just down the street, around the block, or like me, a mile down to the grocery store, which I'm going to have to do. I don't want to do today, but I'm going to have to do. I ate all the sugar. I showed you it, right? It's like, I'm going to have to get this, burn up something. Get the body moving, And then you might want to look into some of this age reversal stuff so that you could have a better quality of life. It's like, and you say, well, I don't want to live forever. It's like, well, that's not the point. The point is, do you want a better quality of life? Because trust me, having gone through a radical prostatectomy, in other words, prostate cancer, and having had an 8-hour operation, having had problems with my kidneys, like some kind of giant kidney stone at one point, and it took them like 3 or 4 tries to do it. So I was in and out of the hospital. Being in a hospital one time they thought at first it was A-flutter, then they thought it was A-fib, and then they wanted to do, and I got through that. And now I got this, now they want to take my gallbladder out. But I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm done with that. And I'm here, I feel okay right now, and I want to stay this way. And the idea is that that's what you want to do. That's what I'm talking about. I'd be happy just to be healthy, just to be happy, and just to be able to share with you and this, the spread, good cheer and talk and advice and, the knowledge I've, learned and, I don't know, make our little world, and this is a minuscule world here, make it a better place.
Good morning.
Anyway, I've talked too long, but anyway, you can go to my site, ROCKFLUX.com. That's where if I, for some reason, I'm no longer on here, there's links to all my stuff at ROCKFLUX. I'm also on Rumble a day late. These shows usually show up a day late. Otherwise, great solar stuff, like I always say, isn't solar only. There's some electric power backup things there that you should have because, our grid is in such bad shape. And there's my most recent 2 books. I wrote 10 books, but Then What's my latest. Codex was the one before. I'd get them both. They're available on Amazon. I think Then What's only $9.95. Get the print book, though. I know you want to read it on a Kindle or Apple Books, and it is available on both of those formats, and it's cheaper that way. But I'm telling you, I made these for print, and they don't seem to translate right on those devices. You just don't get the full effect. And of course, ROCKFLUX.com, you can get any of my gear, like the hat I was wearing, the Game Over thing, and some of my sayings on things. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. However you, take this show in, and I'll talk to you hopefully tomorrow. Take care.